Armah TV, bringing good things to life. Armah TV, bringing good things to life. Armah TV, bringing good things to life.
Hello there, good morning, and thanks for joining us on today's news bulletin. This is the AM News, coming to you live from our studios at the John Evans Fifth Mills High Street in Accra. We are also streaming live on Facebook at Edward TV Ghana, on YouTube at Edward TV GH, and around the world at edwardnewsonline.com. My name is Jonathan Armah. Now, coming up in this bulletin, following new development on the APNT explosion, government begins rebuilding processes. We'll bring you details of that, and also security tightened at a Jusu Senior High School, Senior High Technical School, following various hitches that are growing up in the educational facility. We have details to that and more right on the news bulletin. Do stay. Staying with us, remember, this is your hub of comprehensive and compendious news. Thanks for staying tuned to our very first story. Government has begun the process to rebuild the APNT community, which was razed by an explosion that occurred when a truck carrying explosive from mining exploded in the community on Thursday, 20th January 2022. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Samuel Abu-Jinapo, who led a delegation to the community, noted that the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has instructed all security services and the National Disaster Management Organization to mobilize all requisite resources to provide emergency relief to the victims of the incident.
side the Minister for Western Housing, any Ministry of Western Housing, no. Menano Bay Juma. Now, I said to one of the Butaya or my yes in this one. Now,
he said the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has also formed a committee to undertake independent investigations into the incident and to make recommendations to avert such incidents.
The Korea, a war ascending, a banishing, and a drenching is why any year in the Juma, why 9 years in the Juma? Why they say a little war bono, why you say a little war bono? Will you say investigations? As our investigation is our Monosono, a bit my presentation will be the Dikai, police for me by Ebeyomodia, Ghana Fire Service for Beyomodia, Minerals Commission for Association in Massy, almost a young one. Yes, I'm presenting every year. And you will require a woman. I'm saying, Munya Mutie FM, Radio 4, we see the sea, we see the sea, we see a coffer by any, we see a coffer by. See, if you put me a seat, you are a lecturer, a Shimuno, a bee, and a lecturer, you see. Now, you are seeing you are a lecturer, Coswa, and the winning as well, 7 previous. Oh, Nana, any a mindful, any ability for yen tie monum sem hwehwemu si na se yen tie monum sem a se be previous a medite si sa hwehwemu no na enwie very yi na me ne mo kasa yi ate ko kakra omoba mukuru mo hano eye hwehwemu ni na echi omoba be bisa sem no ma be fefe sem na enche hwehwemu no so sanso nyina da bedai nyina hu ni kwen an American police escort, no who, no ni who, or the car anymore, or the car anymore.
He also explained that the purpose of establishing the Apiati Support Fund is to, among others, support the rebuilding of the community, hence called on the chiefs and the people to support government and the committee managing the fund to ensure the rebuilding of the community.
Omampani ema yeti bibia ye frɛ no appear support fund nse mo chefonka appear support fund na mo amotu dada say mo be bank account or commercial bank any other bank ni mo akasa so no mo akora mo ho a mo a free nya me ebe nyina mo gi a mo hwɛ sɛ mo de be ye adwuma kwan papa so no na na hwɛ da bo maba so na aban bo maba so me so bo maba so sɛ aban kora be ba be no Tuanamo, I did Kakrata, and no, and I'm say I am Funina, I see a year this year, and the year Juma, and she know your bomber pass. Now, Safran, my Yatino, and poor Abata, I can see Ghana for, a man only for people will be the same on board construction, Yuma, immediately the SA Mam. Now, on my police, the anti fund. And they show the fund, no, you don't know what I know, only the particular. Or only a nipa, nipa me and the credit for. Or one of the things at home. Now she say, I'm warning now, any other share was some more, any more with the boy now. I'm one of my years.
That was the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Samuel Abujinapo, there at the APNT as building start in the area in Bogoso in the Western region. Well, we'll stay tuned on that matter and give you more as and when development unfolds in that state. But away from that, fear has gripped hundreds of students at the Ejisu Senior High and Technical School following the stabbing of 3 students within a spate of 1 week. The Municipal Chief Executive MC for Ejisu, Samuel Odroas, linked the attack to tensions between the students and some youth of Ejisu. They have been fighting in recent times. The students have been complaining of phone snatching, he said. The victims are all final year students and currently receiving treatment at the Ejisu Government Hospital. 5 suspects are facing the court as of yesterday, January 27, 2022. Meanwhile, the Municipal Security Council is meeting to address issues pertaining to the security system of the school. For staying with us, but away from that, the Minister for Agriculture, Dr. Owusu Akoto, has indicated that the recent outbreak of the transborder animal disease, including bird flu, has negatively impacted the progress of the government's flagship Rearing for Food and Jobs programs. Dr. Owusu Akoto said the outbreak threatens government's agenda of attaining self-sufficiency in meat production by 2025 as envisioned under the Rearing of Food and Jobs program. He said available data indicates that the outbreak, which occurred in 10 out of 16 regions between December 2021 to January 2022, affected over 700,000. The following report has more.
Frequent outbreaks of transboundary animal diseases, such as the highly pathogenic avian influenza, foot and mouth disease, and the African swine fever, among others, threaten government's agenda of attaining self-sufficiency in meat production by 2025, as envisioned under the Rearing for Food and Jobs program. At the last engagement with the media in October 2021, 7 out of the 16 regions in the country had been hit by the bird flu, with the remaining 9 regions equally at risk due to the rapid spreading nature of the disease. The current update is that the Bono, Upper East and Eastern regions are the latest to record cases of bird flu, while some of the already affected regions continue to experience new cases. I must say that this phenomenon of an outbreak is not only in Ghana, it's across West Africa, and indeed it's in Europe. So it's more or less a global issue that we are dealing with here. I don't want to give the impression that it's only happening in Ghana. It's not. Our neighbors are equally suffering from this outbreak.
The Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Owusu Akoto, speaking on the subject, noted the government is implementing a number of interventions to curb the spread. He also hinted at the establishment of a regulatory authority to strengthen the poultry industry. Dr. Akoto noted that the necessary legal framework was being worked on. The government has taken the necessary steps to update the existing 1960 Animal Health Act by finalizing the new bill for introduction into Parliament this year. Once in effect, the updated act will empower the ministry to regulate the industry. Dr. Akoto said the proposals of the bill is the regulatory authority to certify poultry and livestock farms and enforcement of sanctions such as the closure of farms of recalcitrant farmers in this country.
A major reason why the country's poultry and livestock industry has become vulnerable to the outbreak of transboundary animal disease is the long absence of an updated Animal Health Act to effectively regulate the industry. I'm therefore pleased to report that government has taken the necessary steps to update the existing 1960 Animal Health Act by finalizing a new bill for introduction to Parliament this year. Once in effect, the updated act will empower the ministry through the VSD to regulate the industry. Among the proposals of the bill is a regulatory authority to certify poultry and livestock farms and the enforcement of sanctions such as closure of farms of recalcitrant farmers in this country. I wish to use this platform to urge all to support government's effort to contain the spread of bird flu and help keep alive the vision of transforming the livestock and poultry industry.
That was the Minister for Foods and Agriculture, Dr. Owusu Akoto there. Away from that, the BBC has begun the search for a future star of African journalism with the launch of the 7th BBC World News Komla Dumo Award. The search for the next worthy winner of the Komla Dumo Award launched with an online event on 26th January 2022 featuring an exclusive interview with Komla Dumo's family. The BBC is encouraging journalists across Africa to apply for the prestigious prize, which seeks to promote and celebrate outstanding journalistic talent living and working on the continent.
The BBC World News Komla Dumo Award, first launched in 2015, was set up to honor the memory of the distinguished Ghanaian broadcaster Komla Dumo, who presented on BBC Africa and BBC World News, known for championing robust, dynamic journalism and for his commitment to reporting African stories comprehensively and authentically. He made a significant impact on Africa and the rest of the world. The award has been launched yesterday and expected to roll out for the 7th time to find exceptional talent in African journalism. The BBC is encouraging journalists across Africa to apply for the prestigious prize, which seeks to promote and celebrate outstanding journalistic talent living and working on the continent. In relation to this, an interview was conducted by the former winner for 2020, Victoria Ubadiri, during her placement travel to Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo, to report on an app developed to improve transport safety in Kinshasa, the country's capital city. She also had the opportunity as a first-timer to learn more about the life of the celebrant in question through an interview with the family. In the interview, Kwansima Komla's widow shared that she was proud of her husband's impact at the BBC and also told Victoria that her family are thankful to the BBC for remembering him through the prize. The award will offer the winner a 3-month working opportunity with BBC News teams in London, across television, radio and online, and will be giving the opportunity to sharpen their journalism skills through training, workshops and mentorship with leading BBC journalists. As part of the placement, the successful candidates will have the opportunity to travel to a country in Africa to report on a story that they have researched, with a report broadcast to the BBC's global audiences. The previous winners have truly exemplified Komla's dedication to telling Africa stories with depth, erudition and insight. We are excited to find and welcome this year's winner and see the legacy of Komla's journalism continue. Lillian Landor, Senior Controller of BBC News International Services and Director of BBC World Services, I'm delighted that the BBC World News Komla Dumo Award has returned for its 7th year. The BBC is committed to continuing Komla's legacy through the award by empowering journalists from Africa to tell original and nuanced African stories to reach international audiences. Applications for this award closes on February 16th, 11:59 GMT.
See, the BBC's always had a problem looking cool. That's where I come in.
But his memory still remains in our hearts. The scheme is open to all and sundry around the continent. Away from that, an Honorable Member of Parliament for New Edubiase in the Ashanti region as yesterday made a statement in Parliament indicating that accommodation in our universities has become a crisis. Citing examples of some citizenry who approached him for help in securing accommodation, the legislator says the cost of residence, which is not readily available, is too high and makes it difficult for poor people to access education. He cried that government, through university councils or management, should find ways and means to ameliorate the situation.
Mr. Speaker, during the recess, a constituent whose daughter had gained admission to study at the University of Ghana requested that I help her daughter secure accommodation after they had been unsuccessful in their online application. Mr. Speaker, I wondered why it should take the Member of Parliament, the intervention of a Member of Parliament, to find a place for a prospective student. Mr. Speaker, it took us over 6 hours of waiting for a manager of one of the hostel facilities on campus to finally find a slot for my constituent. When I was leaving the manager's office at around 4:40 p.m., there was still a queue of desperate students and their parents waiting to have an audience with the managers of the hostel. The current arrangement in some of our public universities are that after paying tuition, students are required to apply and secure accommodation online. So, Speaker, this arrangement does not often work for many students, especially those in rural areas. So, Speaker, to access the online portals, one needs fast and reliable internet, which is a challenge in many parts of the country. Even for those in our urban areas, the reports are that rooms are usually unavailable by the time students get the notification to log on to the portals. So, Speaker, the cost of accommodation on campus is too high for the average parent. Currently, apart from the traditional halls, the average residential fee ranges between a little below 2,500 cedis to 12,000 Ghana cedis for an academic year. This development makes it difficult for students from poor families to enroll. Mr. Speaker, as enrollment increases in our public universities, the only logical thing for the government to do is to provide adequate facilities to accommodate the growing student population.
Mr. Speaker, it is true that accommodation, especially residential accommodation for students, is becoming a very critical issue in our tertiary institutions, especially the traditional universities. It is becoming very, very difficult for some students, especially the first-year students, to get accommodation in the traditional halls. The challenge we are having is that we are not being progressive enough to make sure that every year, at least the public universities put up or expand the existing accommodation for students. So, Mr. Speaker, I will urge that government takes up this as a serious responsibility to make sure that funds are made available to the tertiary institutions to complete their projects so that our students who could not afford private hostels should be able to get universities, the accommodation in the tertiary institutions, especially the traditional halls.
It will be necessary for the universities to engage other stakeholders, including the government, to plan ahead of time. Say every year, when they are going to make the admissions, they should know the available space that they have in terms of facilities to match the admission intake. And at the same time, they should have a plan ahead of time for, let's say, 4 years of the admission requirements and availability, and then plan ahead of time. So based on this, before they admit students, they know the limitations and the time that they have, and plan towards that, engaging the private sector, engaging the government, and making sure that whatever they make in their IGF, they make provision to help the students who are coming in to have the comfort and then prepare themselves very well to acquire the tertiary education that they require. I'm very grateful to you, Honorable Speaker, and to members who also put in this event. I'm very grateful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Still stay in Parliament, and in the same vein, Education Minister Honorable Yao Educhum, in response to statements made by some members of the House with regards to accommodation challenges in tertiary institutions, says he understands the concerns raised and the frustration about accommodation in tertiary education. He says the ministry is looking at ways of enhancing the private sector to improve the accommodation issues raised. The minister also looked to the opportunities to comment on schools like the University of Professional Studies, the University of Education in Winneba for their contribution to alleviating the accommodation challenges of students through the internally generated funds.
Mr. Speaker, I've heard the issues that have been brought up in terms of policy, in terms of practice, and what takes place in terms of student accommodation. I'm glad my honorable colleague was able to get accommodation for his constituents, and I'm grateful to KNUST for the assistance that they provided to him whilst he was there on the campus. You see, there are times when you may have an issue of limited supply, or you may also have a management problem on your hands. If I listen to the comments of my colleagues, I can see there is something in between the two. that students are manually going around looking for facilities. Whereas if the system was built up in such a way that you can select online before you get there to make sure accommodation was provided, we'll eliminate some of these problems. So I work with the universities to look at the best way forward in terms of ensuring that we have a proper management system in place so that students have to go to campus on the first day of school opening to look for spaces manually. The good news is that having heard of any students who could not attend KNUST or any other university for that matter because there was no accommodation, but I also understand the frustration of parents if they have to go there and physically be present before they can find accommodation for their wards. My honorable colleague referred to the fact that this challenge has been there for 24 years. The challenge that we confront today must end. And I had various suggestions, the other things that the ministry is doing, promoting, build, operate, and transfer, as was suggested by my honorable colleagues. We look at the tertiary education space. Some funding has been made available, for example, for colleges of education of about 400 million allocated to them to build hostels. Now we are moving on to the public universities to help complete some buildings that have been there, structures that have been there for years, sometimes about 20 years. We are looking at ways where we can complement the efforts of the private sector, sometimes through credit enhancement, through support from GET Fund, so that these facilities will be completed to remove the challenges our parents may go through and our young ones and our wards may go through. I want to take this opportunity on the floor of this parliament to congratulate and to thank universities like UPSA for the innovative manner with which they'll be able to handle the accommodation challenges, building residential halls through their own IGF. I also want to commend UUW for the work they've done there, the various residential facilities they've built through their IGF so that they can accommodate our students who attend those institutions. I think together, when we bring together the universities and government and bring together the private sector, we'll be able to find a solution that has eluded us for many, many years.
Was purposely issues that were raised on accommodations in our tertiary educational system. Away from that, Mobile Money Association of Ghana has petitioned the Minority Caucus in Parliament to ensure that the new electronic transaction levy, that's the e-levy, is rejected when if put before the House. According to the group, its analysis done on the e-levy following the introduction of the 2022 budget shows its implementation will pose a challenge not only to Ghanaians and agents but also have some effect on Ghana's economy.
The General Secretary of the Association, Evans Otumfuo, while presenting the petition, hinted that the approval of the levy will undermine the country's cashless system, job losses, and affect government's digitization drive. He added that the agents who play major roles within the industry will have their profit margins slashed and may be forced to pull back their investments. The minority has mounted a strong defense against the inclusion of the 1.75% levy in the 2022 budget, claiming it will only worsen the economic burden of the citizenry. But according to Finance Minister, the levy will increase the country's tax to GDP from 13% to a targeted 16% or more.
This is a clear evidence that issues regarding this e-levy is not yet to die out. Well, we here are ready to give you more as and when development unfolds during the passage of the e-levy and then all issues that are developing around it. Well, on that very note, this is how far would come to you with the AM News right from our studios at the John Evans Fifiata Mills High Street in Accra. For more news, do well to log on to our website on adwanewsonline.com. Until then, my name is Jonathan Armah. Stay safe. Enjoy the rest of our programs.